In 2008, Elon Musk was borrowing money for rent. His rocket company had just watched 3 launches explode like expensive fireworks. His car company was bleeding cash faster than a Vegas casino. His wife had left. He was weeks from total bankruptcy. 17 years later, he's worth over $700 billion, more than most countries. Tesla became the most valuable automaker in history. SpaceX launches more rockets than entire governments. And the same guy now runs a social network where he posts memes at 3 in the morning. This isn't genius. This is something weirder. Pretoria, South Africa, 1971. Elon Musk was born into a country tearing itself apart. His parents divorced when he was young. His father, Errol, was an engineer with a temper and opinions about parenting that aged like milk. His mother, May, was a model and dietitian who would later appear on magazine covers well into her 70s, proving genetics are wildly unfair. But none of that glamour reached young Elon. He was small, awkward, and read encyclopedias for fun because he'd already finished every book in the library. Like if a Wikipedia page gained sentience and forgot how to make friends. School was brutal. South African boys in the 80s weren't kind to nerds. Musk was bullied relentlessly. One attack landed him in the hospital after a group of kids threw him down a concrete staircase and beat him until he blacked out. His nose was broken so badly he'd need surgery years later. He learned to disappear into his own head. Books became armor. Science fiction became religion. Asimov, Heinlein, Douglas Adams. Stories about people who built things that changed everything. Escape plans disguised as paperbacks. At 10, he got his first computer, a Commodore VIC-20 with 5 kilobytes of memory. It came with a programming manual that was supposed to take 6 months to learn. Elon finished it in 3 days. By 12, he'd coded a space-themed video game called Blastar and sold it to a magazine for $500. Not bad for a kid who couldn't throw a punch. But South Africa was a dead end. Apartheid was collapsing. Mandatory military service loomed. Elon saw exactly one escape route: Canada. His mother was Canadian, which meant citizenship was possible. At 17, he packed a bag and left. His father thought he was making a mistake. They barely spoke again. Canada wasn't glamorous. Musk worked on farms, he shoveled grain, he cleaned boilers at a lumber mill for $18 an hour, which was the highest paying job he could find. He slept on couches and ate cheap. Queen's University first, then a transfer to the University of Pennsylvania on scholarship. He double majored in economics and physics because apparently one impossible workload wasn't enough. Then came Stanford, 1995. Elon enrolled in a PhD program in energy physics. He lasted 2 days. The internet was exploding, and sitting in a classroom felt like watching a rocket launch from the parking lot while filling out paperwork. He dropped out and started a company called Zip2 with his brother Kimball. The idea was simple: online city guides with maps and business directories. Yellow pages, but digital. They had no money. They slept in the office. They showered at the YMCA. Elon coded through the night and pitched investors during the day. 4 years later, Compaq bought Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's share was $22 million. He was 27 years old. Most people would have bought a house and relaxed. Elon bought a McLaren F1, one of the fastest cars on Earth, then immediately plowed most of his money into a new startup. Priorities.x.com was an online bank. The company merged with a competitor called Confinity, which had a little product called PayPal. Internal politics got ugly fast. Elon was pushed out as CEO in a boardroom coup while he was on a flight to Australia for his honeymoon. He didn't find out until he landed. But he stayed on as the largest shareholder, and in 2002, eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion. Musk walked away with roughly $180 million. He was 31, rich beyond imagination. Here's where the story gets insane. Most newly minted centimillionaires diversify. Bonds, real estate, maybe a vineyard in Napa where they can bore dinner guests with wine facts. Elon Musk looked at his fortune and decided to bet almost all of it on 2 industries famous for bankrupting billionaires: rockets and electric cars, simultaneously. Financial advisors everywhere felt a disturbance in the force. SpaceX came first, 2002. The mission statement was absurd: make humanity a multiplanetary species, reduce the cost of space travel by a factor of 10. build reusable rockets when every aerospace expert said it couldn't be done. Musk started cold calling rocket engineers and reading Soviet propulsion manuals for fun. He wasn't an aerospace engineer, he became one through sheer obsessive force of will. 2 years later, Tesla. Musk didn't found the company. 2 engineers named Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning did. But Elon wrote the biggest check during the Series A round, $6.5 million. He became chairman and, more importantly, the guy with veto power over everything. The vision was his, the money was his. The pressure would soon be his too. By 2006, SpaceX was preparing its first launch, a small rocket called Falcon 1. The launch pad was on Kwajalein Atoll, a tiny island in the Pacific, because it was cheap and far from anything expensive that could be damaged. The team was small, scrappy, and running on caffeine and stubbornness. Meanwhile, Tesla was building the Roadster, an electric sports car that kept missing deadlines and hemorrhaging money. Suppliers were revolting, engineers were quitting. Elon had his hands in both disasters, flying between Los Angeles and San Francisco, sleeping 4 hours a night, pouring more cash into companies that were starting to look like very expensive bonfires. Nobody knew it yet. The rockets were ready. The question was whether they'd reach orbit or explode on the launch pad. And Elon Musk was about to discover exactly how much pain one person could endure before breaking. March 24th, 2006. Kwajalein Atoll. Falcon 1 sat on the launch pad, a slender white rocket representing everything Elon Musk had been working toward. The countdown hit 0, engines ignited. 25 seconds later, a fuel line failed. The rocket tumbled out of the sky and crashed into the Pacific Ocean. 4 years of work. Musk called it a learning experience. Internally, he was devastated. But there was no time to grieve. They rebuilt. A year later, March 2007, Falcon 1 stood ready again. This time, it made it further. The rocket began to spin like a drunk ballerina. The second stage separated but never ignited properly. Another fireball, another failure. Meanwhile, Tesla was hemorrhaging money at an impressive rate. The Roadster was supposed to cost $25,000 to build. The actual cost was nearly double. The company had gone through 2 CEOs already. In December 2007, Musk took over as CEO himself, not because he wanted the job, but because there was literally nobody else left willing to captain this particular Titanic. August 2008, third launch attempt. By now, SpaceX was running on fumes and optimism. Musk had sunk nearly all his remaining fortune into the company. This was supposed to be the one. The rocket lifted off beautifully. First stage performed perfectly. The rocket disintegrated. On the live feed, you could hear the team go silent. 3 launches, 3 failures. $100 million turned into Pacific Ocean confetti. The timing couldn't have been worse. Lehman Brothers collapsed a month later. The global financial system was melting down like ice cream in July. Tesla needed another funding round to survive. Nobody was writing checks for electric car companies in the middle of a financial apocalypse. Venture capitalists were too busy panicking about their own portfolios. Musk's personal life was collapsing too. His first wife, Justine, had filed for divorce. The tabloids were circling like vultures with press credentials. He was sleeping on friends' couches because he couldn't afford hotels. At one point, he had to borrow money for rent. The man who'd sold PayPal for billions was functionally broke, watching 2 companies die simultaneously while his marriage disintegrated in public. Then came September 28, 2008. Falcon 1, Attempt 4. SpaceX had maybe one more try left in the bank. Maybe. Musk flew to Kwajalein. The team was exhausted, terrified, and running on pure stubbornness and whatever passed for coffee on a Pacific atoll. The countdown started. The engines lit. The rocket climbed. First stage separation. Clean. Second stage ignition. Perfect. The rocket kept climbing and climbing. 9 minutes and 31 seconds after liftoff, Falcon 1 reached orbit, the first privately developed liquid fuel rocket to ever do it. In the control room, grown engineers were crying. Musk looked like a man who just outrun a train by inches, which, financially speaking, he had. But the crisis wasn't over. Tesla still needed money. The company was weeks from running out of cash. Musk had already put in everything he had. He was negotiating with investors while simultaneously keeping SpaceX alive through sheer force of will. On Christmas Eve 2008, just hours before Tesla would have had to declare bankruptcy, the funding round finally closed. Musk personally put in his last $40 million. He later admitted he had to borrow money for rent the next month. Merry Christmas indeed. 2008 was the crucible, the year that should have destroyed everything. Instead, it forged something harder. SpaceX had proven that private rockets could work. Tesla had survived when every other electric car startup from that era became a footnote. Fisker, Coda, Aptera, gone. Musk had gone to the edge of total ruin and somehow clawed his way back, like a protagonist who refuses to read the script. The resurrection was swift. December 2008, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. 12 flights, guaranteed. Suddenly, the weird little rocket company that couldn't stop exploding was a serious government contractor. The aerospace giants who'd laughed at Musk were not laughing anymore. Some of them were updating their resumes. Tesla started recovering too. The Roadster finally shipped. Reviews were strong. It wasn't profitable yet, but it proved something important. Electric cars didn't have to be sad golf carts for people who hated driving. They could be fast, desirable, and cool. The company went public in June 2010. First American automaker IPO since Ford in 1956. If you'd bought shares that day and held them, you'd be reading this from a yacht right now. The real breakthrough came with Dragon, May 2012. SpaceX launched a capsule toward the International Space Station. This wasn't just cargo delivery. This was a demonstration mission. The whole world was watching. If Dragon failed, SpaceX would look like amateurs who got lucky once. It didn't fail. Dragon docked with the ISS and returned safely to Earth. SpaceX had done what only governments had done before. The space industry would never be the same. Your tax dollars were suddenly going a lot further. That same year, Tesla unveiled the Model S. This wasn't a niche sports car for tech billionaires. This was a luxury sedan that could compete with BMW and Mercedes on their home turf. Motor Trend named it Car of the Year. Consumer Reports gave it their highest rating ever. Suddenly, Tesla wasn't a joke, it was a threat, and the big automakers were starting to sweat. The strategy was becoming terrifyingly clear. Musk didn't want to build one successful rocket or one successful car. SpaceX was already forcing competitors to cut prices. Tesla was forcing every automaker on Earth to rethink their electric vehicle plans. The scrappy survival mode was over. What came next was expansion, domination, and a level of ambition that made 2008 look like a warm-up round. The machine was being built, and nobody fully understood yet how powerful it would become. The key to Musk's dominance was a concept most CEOs put in PowerPoints but never actually execute: vertical integration. While traditional automakers outsourced everything from seats to software, Tesla built it all in-house. Batteries, motors, electronics, even the glass for the windshields. When suppliers couldn't deliver, Tesla made its own parts. When software lagged, Tesla wrote its own code. The company became less like a car manufacturer and more like Apple with wheels and a persecution complex. SpaceX took the same approach to an extreme. 80% of the Falcon 9 rocket was built internally. Competitors like Boeing and Lockheed Martin relied on sprawling supply chains and cost-plus government contracts that basically rewarded inefficiency. The more they spent, the more they billed. Nice work if you can get it. SpaceX built faster, cheaper, and kept iterating while legacy aerospace was still filing paperwork. December 2015. Falcon 9 launched a payload to orbit, then turned around and landed itself back on the launch pad. The entire industry had assumed disposable rockets were the only option. Musk proved them wrong with a YouTube video that got more views than most Super Bowl ads. Suddenly, SpaceX could fly the same rocket multiple times, slashing costs by orders of magnitude. If you've ever wondered why billionaires are suddenly obsessed with space, this moment is why. Tesla's gigafactories became monuments to industrial ambition. The Nevada plant alone covered 5.3 million square feet, one of the largest buildings on Earth by footprint. Then came Shanghai, then Berlin, then Texas. Each factory designed to produce batteries and vehicles at volumes that made competitors physically uncomfortable during earnings calls. The physical transformation was striking too. Gone was the awkward tech nerd with the soft jawline and receding hairline. The new Musk was jacked, chiseled, and carried himself like someone who'd figured out cheat codes for genetics. Less PayPal founder, more Bond villain who actually does his own stunts. The internet noticed. The memes multiplied. By 2020, Tesla was the most valuable automaker in the world, worth more than Toyota, Volkswagen, and Ford combined. Let that sink in. A company that made fewer than 500,000 cars a year was valued higher than manufacturers producing tens of millions. Either the market knew something, or it had collectively lost its mind. Possibly both. The body count in traditional industries was staggering. Legacy automakers scrambled to announce electric vehicle plans like students who'd forgotten about the final exam. General Motors killed Chevrolet sedans. Ford restructured everything. Volkswagen committed $200 billion to electrification. And behind it all, pushing, disrupting, posting memes about it at 2 in the morning, was Musk. But dominance came with shadows. Reports emerged from Tesla factories describing brutal conditions, 12-hour shifts, mandatory overtime, workers collapsing on the production line, injuries allegedly going unreported. The company fought unionization like it was an existential threat. Musk himself tweeted that workers would lose stock options if they unionized. The National Labor Relations Board later ruled that illegal. Oops. SpaceX wasn't exactly a wellness retreat either. Employees described a culture of burnout dressed up as mission. 80-hour weeks were normal. People got fired for pushing back. To Musk, this was the price of changing the world. To critics, it looked like exploitation with better branding. Then came the SEC. August 2018. Musk tweeted he was considering taking Tesla private at $420 a share. Funding secured. The stock surged. Small problem. Funding was absolutely not secured. The 420 number was apparently a marijuana joke. The SEC was not amused. Musk settled, paying $20 million and stepping down as chairman. Tesla paid another $20 million. Musk kept tweeting anyway because, of course he did. His public behavior got increasingly chaotic. Joe Rogan podcast, weed on camera, calling a cave diver a pedo on Twitter. Memes at all hours. He seemed to enjoy the chaos like a performance artist who accidentally became the world's richest person. Then, 2022. Musk offered to buy Twitter for $44 billion. The deal got messy, hostile, legally complicated, then finally closed in October. He fired 75% of the staff, reinstated banned accounts, changed everything. Advertisers fled. The platform, rebranded X, became a symbol of his political transformation. The guy who'd championed electric cars was now posting conspiracy theories and endorsing candidates your uncle shares on Facebook. The polarization was complete. And yet the empire kept expanding. Starlink now has over 6,000 satellites providing internet to war zones and rural areas. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Musk's satellites kept the country connected. He'd become a geopolitical player, not just a businessman. Neuralink promises brain chips, The Boring Company digs tunnels, xAI competes with OpenAI, 6 companies spanning cars, rockets, social media, neuroscience, infrastructure, and artificial intelligence, all controlled by one guy who still posts memes at 3 in the morning. By late 2024, Musk's net worth crossed $700 billion. $700 billion. The kid who got thrown downstairs in Pretoria now commands more wealth than most nations have in their entire GDP. Fun fact, that's roughly the economic output of Switzerland and Argentina combined. But what does he actually want? The answer hasn't changed since he was reading Asimov in his bedroom. Mars. Everything else, the cars, the rockets, the factories, the chaos, has always been about one thing: making humanity multiplanetary. Musk has said he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact. The Starship rocket, taller than the Statue of Liberty, is designed to carry 100 people to the Red Planet. Test flights have exploded spectacularly. SpaceX keeps building anyway. The timeline is insane, the obstacles enormous, and yet nobody who's watched him over 20 years bets against him anymore. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Elon Musk isn't a hero or a villain. He's both simultaneously and refuses to pick a lane. A visionary who builds the future and burns through people getting there. A sustainability champion who tweets like a caffeinated teenager. A man who nearly went broke saving 2 companies and now reshapes entire societies before breakfast. The bullied kid who memorized encyclopedias because humans were too confusing is still in there, still obsessed, still building, still staring at the stars like he did when books were his only friends. The difference is now he has the rockets to reach them. Whether that's good for humanity or terrifying, honestly, that's still being written.